address. Hello.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Solidati. I live at 15 Sandy Lane. So I spoke with Mr. Januso earlier this week, well, last week, and I also mentioned this at the ABB meeting about the DEP coming in to speak with us. And I gave him the information, and I had a DEP rep, the liaison, Lauren Fraley, email me back and say, while they did speak with somebody from the township, they were not invited to speak at this meeting. Why aren't we inviting them to speak at this meeting to get this property? I'm not saying we need to buy it at all, but it needs to be cleaned up, and it needs to be cleaned up on ABB's dime, not on Cecil Township's dime. So why aren't we bringing in these people?
Okay, you mind if I answer? The thought was to have that special meeting for that, and it is on the agenda that we would ask that the board would consider having a meeting with the DEP, and so we are on it. Maybe to answer the First Lady's questions too, that's maybe what took so long, was trying to get that meeting 1 month and the second month, and then finally, yeah, we did hear those remarks from the engineer, but then finally you got the green light, shared the information with Dawn, so I would like to act on that.
Well, they said as long as they're invited by a township representative, they would come and speak. And they'd be happy to work with ABB to present a resolution to that property.
Okay.
Because while, some say leave it be, the fact of the matter is you have, trees and everything else growing up on that property. If they're soaking up these chemicals. So if the kids go up there and have a bonfire or lightning strikes, and you can say, oh, that's not going to happen, but a tornado wasn't going to hit Mount Washington either, and there we are. So then you're going to have this giant fire up there, burning all these trees that have been sucking up these chemicals for years and years, and you're going to send our volunteer firefighters into that mess? Wouldn't it be better to get a hazmat company who's trained and has the proper protective gear to go in and clean up that mess before it even results in an even bigger catastrophe? Just something for the township to think about.
Yes, thank you.
Jesse White, 3249 Millers Run Road. First of all, I want to mention, after the ABB meeting, as suggested, I requested the DEP grant application from Don Januso, and he had it back to me within 24 hours through the right to know process. So Don, thank you for being so efficient in getting that back. I took a look at the application, and the thing that to me was a little bit perplexing was the issue of the signature page, and I thought with everybody here we could maybe get that resolved. The document that I received had a 4-page application and then different exhibits, many of which were used during the ABB meeting to, the maps and whatnot. But there was no signature page attached. Now, when Mr. Fleer mentioned at the ABB meeting that he was approached with a signature page and refused to sign it, so that would imply that there actually was a signature page. But when I inquired with the manager as to where that signature page was as part of the right to know document, I was told that it was filed electronically and there was no signature page. So I'd like some clarification as to what exactly was it that Mr. Fleer was given to sign. I imagine Mr. Fleer would probably like to know that too. If there wasn't the need for a signature page. And if there is a signature page, even as part of electronic filing, because the document that I have doesn't even have anybody's name on it, which seems a little bit odd for a grant application. So could anybody provide some clarity on that?
Dawn, are you able to address that, please?
I mean, all I can address is, from what I was told in the package, is the information that I have that I provide you under the Right to Know Act. There is no signature page. I was told that it was an electronic submission. I was not involved in the formal grant procedure, so I can't address it any more than that. I don't know if Dan was a part of, the grant application. I don't know if he has any more insight, but the documents you received are all the documents I have relative to that grant.
And you clarified that for me in an email. I did appreciate that. Okay, so then I'll ask the question then to Supervisors of Oliver Cassiola. Was there a signature page? Yes or no?
Just address the chair if you would, please. But Dan, would you shed any light on that grant application? Let me get his facts, please.
The grant application was,
Yeah.
the grant application was submitted through Tucker Aaronsburg's office. Dawn and I got the full complement of information, which I got over to Dawn to make sure everybody's electronic files was submitted. I'm not aware that there was any application page, but there was correspondence, at least in my file, that I found from Tucker Aaronsburg stating the intent of the township to submit the grant, and they were really acting on behalf of the township in the lead of this thing, but there was no, and what I reviewed in the application, there was no formal signature page on that. We had a meeting in the field that Tucker Aaronsburg coordinated with the DEP. They saw it in the site. They gave us the application, and then there was follow-up correspondence related to that on a number of questions. Mr. Mongelo from Tucker Aaronsburg filtered all that information back to the DEP, and he had been the lead contact on that application. So I was not aware of any signature page.
Okay. Dan,
Yes, sir.
you handed it to me and asked me to sign it that night.
Roy, if you say I did, then I'll believe you, but I don't.
You absolutely did.
So are we saying we applied for a grant and no one signed for it? So like I could have just as a Cecil Township resident applied for a grant and there would have been no one to check on that, to say that I'm like an official Cecil Township?
The attorney, as I said, and Dawn, I don't know if you have correspondence, but if you don't, I'll give it to you. I have correspondence from Tucker Aaronsburg representing the township as counsel was carrying this grant through the DEP.
That's correct. In the same package, to double check when I received the right to know from Jesse White, I also asked David Mongelo if he had the entire package. I received the same exact documents and the same exact, that's all that exists. There is no signature page.
I mean, grants are paid for with taxpayer money, so I don't think that the government's giving away $1.9 million for anybody who just applies for it. Somebody's taking
I think
responsibility.
the DEP knew who they were talking to. They were talking to a representative.
To clarify, just to that point, so that I have the application right here. And it says the form was completed by Dan and David Mongello Esquire. And it says the municipality was Cecil Township, and the primary project partner was Cecil Township and ABB Inc., and then it goes through. And I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, again, I've had some experience doing grant applications. Somebody signs invariably. Because the thing that I guess I don't get from this instance is, again, we've got a situation where who told them to proceed with the grant if there wasn't a majority of the board that was on board with it?
So I can't, go ahead.
So there was, I'm looking at correspondence right now that I have that was sent to the township manager. There was an acknowledgement from DEP on December 4th, 2018, that there was a letter of intent requesting assistance under the Industrial Sites Reuse Program. And Dawn, I believe, hey Dawn, if I recall, Tucker Aaronsburg helped you write a letter of intent on the behalf of the township that went to DEP, because this correspondence then says that you should apply for this online, and it follows through with the application. So there was, instead of having an application page, sometimes they do a letter of intent. So DEP acknowledged by correspondence a letter of intent was received, and they said follow up with the electronic submission of the grant application, which was done. So that was the process. There was no application page. There was actually a letter of intent. I'll find the letter of intent. I'm sure I have it.
But didn't the majority of the board have to approve it?
Yeah, so I was just going to say that Attorney White, the way that I recall that situation that had happened, that was this grant was to be coming due, and we had to get it submitted, and a poll, a query was taken independently, either through Dawn or myself. We could look through the emails, but it was, we had 3 supervisors, Frank, myself, and Tommy Cassiola, that said, yes, let's apply for the grant. Frank said, show me the money. His point was, we wanted to see the money that was available through the grant.
Those
So we had 3 people that said yes, and then the following week, we had a meeting, and we voted on it through public, but we knew we had enough votes that could submit the grant.
Those were two different meetings. The show me, where Frank made the comment, show me the money, was not related to the grant application. He was talking about when Tucker Arnsberg was talking about the coal refuge, where they said, you pay for it and we'll pay you back.
Well, this was, as I understand, like August of 2018, when we were submitting for the grant, and that's when we had a majority in line at that time, and then the following meeting, we officially voted.
Eric, you filed for the grant before you even voted on it.
You were at a meeting in which Supervisor Easier and myself were absent. It was only you, Tom, and Ron.
No, I don't believe so. I think absolutely. I looked up the agenda with Dawn in the August meeting, and it showed that all 5 supervisors were in
Right,
attendance.
so my understanding is
Eric.
that it was publicly voted on, and I think it was 3-2. We're gonna go back and check those meetings.
Wait, that was after they applied. They already applied.
I just explained
Yes,
that.
there sounds like, from what I understand, there was a public vote to essentially ratify that particular grant application.
But they didn't have 3 supervisors to prove that. Frank was not here that night. Sandy was on vacation. Frank was working out the airport.
We just had this discussion, and the August meeting, all supervisors were present, and I believe the results were 3-2 in favor of applying for the grant, and it was.
Eric, let's figure this
myself
out.
and Tom.
This is before you voted.
The grant?
Before you voted. You applied for the grant before the August meeting.
The August meeting, I'm talking about the August meeting, was the 3-2.
Grant was submitted in July.
Okay, we'll have to go back and look at the dates. Anything else?
So, well, to that point, I guess my next question is, if the letter of intent was received in December of, what you said, 2018?
Yes. The official letter of intent came from Dr. Aaronsburg to the DEP, and it stated November 1st, 2018.
Okay, so that was the,
I'm sorry, I missed that. Can you say?
so that was the end of the
Hold on one
process.
second. I just missed what he said.
So on behalf of the township, Dr. Aaronsburg wrote a letter to DEP and stated they issued the letter of intent on behalf of the township, and then the DEP in December acknowledged that with their letter.
The letter of intent as far as the grant goes?
Yes, I have it right here.
Well, how could they have issued a letter of intent if they didn't tell us about it until July?
I don't have the timeline in front of me. I know that, well, this was 18.
I can tell you exactly what happened because I was standing on my porch in Hilton Head with my kids in the swimming pool, and I got a phone call, and I'm not trying to call you out, but I got a phone call from you that says there's this grant available, we need to know if you're in favor of it. I said no. That was the end of the conversation, but I wasn't at the beach in November. I was at the beach in July 28th, so I don't know why.
Well, it took from July till November to get things in order and submit the information to the DEP.
But they had already, I'm confused, because the grant application said that it was submitted in July 2018.
No, I don't believe that was the case. It went out later in the year, or there were some things that followed. Again, I'm sorry.
I got it right here.